We are going to start then. Before that,
Oh, live on YouTube. Woo.
hopefully. So
Girlfriend,
normally we are going to start with prayers, Mr. D. Is that okay?
start with
A prayer.
a prayer, no problem. I hope I'm not leading it. I hope you're going to lead it.
No. So whose turn to have a prayer this afternoon? Is that April?
Okay, we are going to pray. Let us pray. Dear God, Heavenly Father, thank you for your blessing until this day afternoon. We can meet together via Zoom meeting to attend this program. Please bless us, God, especially for the speaker today. Bless our family wherever they are. Forgive us from all our sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, April. So as for our information for you, Mr. D, actually we are a university, a private university, and then that's a Seventh-day Adventist organization. So that's the university we have now. All right. So before I start, I'm going to explain a little bit about Mr. D. So
Straight away, it's interesting because you're calling me Mr. D. That was my school nickname, yeah?
Yep. I cannot change that. That's really
No, it's fine, yeah.
Okay, so full name is David Mark Aldrich. We used to call him Mr. D because we used to work as uh, a school together at the school. Is that about 7 or 8 years ago?
Something like
And
that,
then
yeah.
and then all the students call him Mr. D. So
And that's because, let me jump in there, because in that school, the children all use the teacher's first name. So in England, I would be Mr. Aldridge, but in the international school here, I'm Mr. David. So Mr. D just says Mr. David.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell a little bit about Mr. D before we start, and before Mr. D is going to do the lesson today. So Mr. D was born in Southeast London, where his father drove around the streets in a small van selling an ice cream.
Wow,
So I just read that from our chat, Mr. D.
My skill.
Okay, so at 18, Mr. D has an opportunity to go to university as he had good school qualifications. He studied econometrics and economics at Leeds University, but his primary aim was to watch his football team, Leeds United. So that's the primary thing to join in Leeds University. So his degree secured him a post as an actuary, someone who does the calculation needed for pensions and life insurance. But the work was quite dull. After working as a researcher at university for 2 years, where Mr. D played a lot of futsal, at the age of 30, he trained as a school teacher. He worked in schools around the city and one day saw a very interesting advertisement to tutor children overseas. He spent the next 4 years living in the Palace in Riyadh. Palace in Riyadh and tutoring 4 young royals. That's a nice experience. It was really crazy for him because he's not only become the tutor but also parents, advisor, and friend, and spend 8 hours a day with them. So the family actually wanted him to leave us to stay longer in Saudi, but he decided to do something different and return to the real world. So it's not real world, Mr. D.
No, very fake. Very fake.
So he went back to teaching in schools, first in Turkey and then in Indonesia. He really enjoyed living overseas and ended up working in Surabaya, Balikpapan, where we met, and Bali. So he has recently retired at the age of 54 and live with his Javanese wife, and then teaches yoga. And then also he ran a football team and play video game for his leisure time. He was very happy and comfortable. He has a very happy and comfortable life, but sometimes wonder at how his life choices brought him to this point, especially in Indonesia. So, welcome to Mr. D. Thank you for joining us. Really
No.
appreciate your time, and the time is yours.
Wow. Well, you've rather stolen my introduction. I don't know whether to add some more detail. I'll try and pick through some of that. So it's funny, really. When I was a little boy, my dad had very simple jobs. I wasn't anyone. He wasn't very clever. My dad. He left school when he was 16, and he had 4 jobs. I remember he was a postman at one time, and he sold ice cream. So every day he would come home and I would have an ice cream when he came home from work. He'd come home in the evening at about 8 o'clock. And my mum was a classic housewife. She didn't work. She just stayed home and she looked after me and my 2 sisters. And it just so happened that I was quite good at schoolwork. I quite enjoyed doing exams. I probably was a bit scared of the teachers as well. So I had a lot of success in school. And that gave the opportunity to go to university, of course. And the more education you have, I guess, for some people, the more opportunities, the more choices you get. And I was very lucky. I did it, and I left home. It was very strange because I lived in London, and I moved 300 kilometers away to another city, to Leeds, because of my football team, because that was who I followed, because that's very important to me. But it was very surprising for my family, because my family had always lived in London, which is obviously the capital of England, just like Jakarta is here. So you can imagine, big city, your family's there. It's very different. Didn't bother me at all. It was not a problem, quite exciting, really. So after I got my degree, I had a few. It was very hard. I find this is such a hard thing and you'll face this the same. It's hard to know what you want to do in life. It really is hard. There's very few people to help you. I don't know, you just sometimes end up in a job and you're not really sure it suits you. I ended up in a job that matched with my degree, but I didn't really enjoy the degree I did. So I didn't really enjoy the job I did. I was good with numbers. So that's why I got this job. And it took me 9 years until I found that teaching was maybe something that I wanted to do. And strangely enough, I was actually quite shy as a teenager. And in my early 20s, I was quite shy. I didn't really like speaking in public. And when I became a teacher, I had to step up. I had to learn to speak in front of other people. And because you're speaking in front of small people, because I became a teacher of small children, 8 years old, 9 years old, it was easy. I'm the adult in the room, so I'm the one that has to speak and help them. So it gave me confidence. And then I guess I found myself and who I wanted to be, which was quite nice. So the moral of that story is sometimes we get a little bit lost. We get a little bit lost in the early days because we don't have a natural. In school, you go from this school to that school and it's easy. But once you leave school, it can be hard. Went overseas. It was crazy to go overseas. May not have been clear that I worked in a royal palace. I worked for the Al Saud royal family in Saudi Arabia. I lived in a royal palace. I flew sometimes on private jets. I saw their lifestyle. I saw the amount of money they had. I met the son of the king. They all would come and play with us. They play football. My job was it was a crazy job. It was a crazy job. But once again, I was seeing the world, seeing something completely different. I'm just a simple person, and wow, this was another world. And there were so many staff. I meet people from Africa, from Southeast Asia, Indonesians, Malaysians, all working there, driving cars and cleaning and cooking. So we had this community, and I hear their stories and hear their hard lives, and hear just, it opens up your mind, because I don't know this until I leave England. And then fortunately, as I say, I end up in Indonesia, and I work in 3 schools in Surabaya, Balikpapan, and now in Bali. And most of you obviously may have been to Bali, and you know what type of island that is. Yeah. So a little bit of background. I met my wife. Strangely enough, I met her online on a dating site. So I quite like dating sites. Some of you will go, nightmare, horrible. But it really works for me as a new person in the country. It really helped me to meet local people. And we got together very quickly, actually. And it was very, very easy and very simple to be together. And here we are, still together 12 years later. Yeah. So, yeah. So apparently I've been asked here today to talk about Britain. I've got a little whiteboard. I was a teacher, see, so I always have my whiteboards for my kids to write on. Can you see that? We're going to do, we're going to learn about British values, and we're going to learn about British culture and the way of life and things to avoid if you ever go to Britain. Sometimes these things you have to experience yourself. It's very boring for someone to tell you about life in another country. Sometimes you don't believe it. For example, if I tell you that hardly anyone in England is religious, maybe you find that very hard to believe. But I've got some statistics here, and apparently 75% of the population don't really follow a religious, shall we say, don't practice their religion. Now, from an outside looking at our country, maybe that shocks you, because America is a very Christian country, but England is not. So there's a shock straight away. And until you're there, maybe you wouldn't realize, because it's just how it is. Right. I'll start with talking about the values of my country. Now, this is really strange, because I didn't know the values. When Marlene asked me to do this, I had no idea what the values of my country were. You have Pancasila here. And when I met my wife, she told me about Pancasila, and you look at it and you think, that's really good. It's like the values of Indonesia down there in writing, and you're taught that through schooling, and you try and follow the principles for having a good country. But I didn't know the values of Britain. I didn't know the values of my country, so I had to research. So I spent some time looking online, and I found 4 clear values. And when you read them, you realize, oh yeah, that's what we've been doing. That's my country. And sometimes you don't realize until you come to another country. For example, Saudi Arabia is an autocracy. The king makes the rules, and everyone has to do what he says. It's a religious country, but the royal family sort of cheats their way a little bit in order to run their country. So everyone is following Islam, yes, but the royal family are sort of leading the way in that. And sometimes they're maybe determining what that means. So when I went, and in Saudi Arabia, you cannot hold another religion. You cannot be Christian. You cannot be Buddhist. So straight away you're thinking, whoa, hang on a minute. There's no choices here. And then you think about your own country, and you think about the choices you have, and you start to realize that, wow, I didn't know, but actually my country is pretty good. So the first value I looked up is actually democracy. And it just gives us a freedom, really. And we don't realize this, but we have sort of rights as a citizen and a sort of responsibility. So it's sort of a joint thing. We're sort of in it together. So if I do the right things, the country sort of will protect me. And obviously we have voting. So we don't just, like, the Queen in England is like the head of state, but the Queen doesn't do anything. The Queen has no power. Now, if we roll back time We go back 500 years. We go back 300 years. We go back 100, excuse me. We go back less time. The king and queen made the decisions. The king and queen collected the taxes. The king and queen were almost the ultimate power with God above them. And then at one point in our lives, the government came in because the people basically said, this is not right. And we had a little bit of a war in our country, and the government was formed, and now our country is run by the government. So that all the decisions, all the laws is run by the government, and the Queen is there in the background. So very different to maybe what you believe. I don't know. The second thing, the second value we have is law. It's very interesting, actually, because I come to England, to Indonesia, and I walk down the street and I see someone building a building, and there's some scaffolding, you know, some bamboo. They use bamboo here to build the scaffold, to build the house. And there's the man standing on the scaffold trying to put some roof tiles on. Whoa, no, in England wouldn't be allowed because there's rules, there's laws, there's protection for this man. He needs to have maybe some harness, so he's not going to hurt himself. He needs to make sure he's not going to be hurt, and he's not going to hurt anyone else. And everything you do, there are laws to protect you. If you're an employee, if you're working, it's protecting you there. So the boss can't just say, I don't like you, you're sacked. No, not allowed. There has to be a reason to sack you. Ah, you're stealing. Ah, you're being rude to customers. Yes, fair enough. But they can't just say, I don't like your face, you're out. No, there are rules that protect you all over the place. It protects the wages you earn, so he can't cheat you, or she can't cheat you, because obviously there's equality. So little things like this, all over the place. If there's a car accident, for example, you're involved in an accident, maybe you're walking along the street and a car hits you on the pavement, you're protected. You're protected everywhere. And many people would say, oh, I don't like that because I like freedom. But actually, we need to be protected from people that don't want to play by the rules, that don't want to join in with the rest of us in society. So the laws protect everyone. So wow, straight away, very important. There's lots of other things that laws affect, but it's one of the main values. The next one is respect and tolerance. And it makes me think sometimes, do we actually do this? It's easy to say, yeah, I respect everyone. I'm a tolerant person. I accept what other people say. I listen to them. Yes, I think we do. Of course, you have friends. You might not agree with them. This person says this about their religion. This person says this person thinks this about sexuality. Oh, I don't really agree with that. But it's not affecting me. They're entitled to have their beliefs, and we can be tolerant. I can live in my house. I can live my world without being affected by their beliefs. So we can accept that. And as long as they don't interfere with me, knock on my door and tell me I need to change, then we're okay with that. And you can be protected. So, for example, you can marry someone of the same sex in England now. And this has only been law in the last 10 years. And women at work, women are now bosses. Women get equal pay for the same jobs. There's more respect for women that are doing those roles. And religions as well. We've had plenty of problems, obviously, for our history. We've so many religious wars in our history. You know, I go back 600, 500 years. Christianity in England were fighting amongst themselves, the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, religion, killing people that weren't of the right faith. And then now we have obviously Islam, we have Christianity, Islam. So, but when it comes down to us as people, we don't have this problem, do we? All my friends here, I've got Hindus, I've got Buddhists, I've got gay friends. It makes no difference to us. And that's really come from our upbringing, from our family, I guess, and from the choices we've made. And it's nice. Yeah, it's nice that we've got that freedom to do that. So that's another big thing that we maybe take for granted. And then the last one is, I guess, in it's being allowed to be an individual. I've got it on my sheet here. It says individual liberty, a freedom to be who you are. You don't have to be like someone else wants you to be. Starts in the family, doesn't it, really? Like maybe your mum or dad have expectations and it's very difficult maybe to, yeah, maybe dad wants you to be a lawyer. And you go, oh, I don't want to do that, you know. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe you've been promised. I mean, I've in my classroom once in England, I had a Muslim assistant. She was absolutely lovely, lovely girl. She was 19 years old and she was so full of life. But then she had an arranged marriage and her family organized an arranged marriage with a man from Pakistan. They were very sneaky. She went to Pakistan for holiday. And when she was there, she was introduced to a member of her family. And basically, she sort of fell in love with him. But I think we know that this was maybe a little bit planned. And he ended up coming back to England. Oh, very handy for him, yeah? So he's married someone from England. He gets a British passport. He comes to England. And as soon as he was there, he stopped her from working in school. She loved it. She was so good with the kids. And it was so sad. She would stop from being who she wanted to be. And she just changed from being a happy person to someone that stayed in the house all the time. And there we go. So Britain has these values that basically protect you as an individual. They don't say you have to do anything, but there's certain, and I'm sure we all agree, you're free to choose as long as you don't affect anyone. You follow the laws. And let's face it, Britain was a Christian country. So many of these values come from the Christian religion, really. You shall not kill. You show respect. You know, these are common sense things, really, but it has come from Christianity. The church at once was very, very strong in England, in Britain. I'm sorry. I'll quickly say about the Britain-England thing because it's confusing. Britain is a collection of countries. You might have heard it called United Kingdom. Even as someone that comes from Britain, it's confusing. I was born in England. There's England, Scotland, and Wales that together make Britain. We have a British passport. Scottish people are very proud of being Scottish. Welsh people are very proud of being Welsh. They have their own language, but together we have the same government and we are similar people. We speak the same language. We speak English. So there's a little bit of confusion there. If I'm asked, I'm British, but really I'm from England. So it's a bit weird. Then we have Northern Ireland. Let's not go there. That makes it even more confusing. So there we go. Would anyone like to maybe say anything, ask anything, tell me your experience? Am I speaking too fast? People from London speak very fast. Do I need to slow down? Any feedback? I feel as if I'm speaking to a quiet room.
Any feedback, everyone? Does Mr. D talk so fast, or do you need him to be go slow, or just tell us?
I have a sort of my accent because I've lived away for so long. I lived in Leeds, and I'll talk about that later. My accent sometimes when I swear, and I swear a lot, trust me. Swearing in England is used as expression. Like when I hurt my elbow on the table, I say, "Oh fuck," and it's just something you say. It doesn't really mean, it's not evil. It's just it's expression to show how much it really hurt me, and it's very common. It's not good, but it happens. When I speak fast or get excited, emotional, you can hear I'm from London. I have this London accent, but I sort of have lost it a little bit, and I'm more neutral, shall we say. Anyway, I'll shut up. Anyone want to say anything?
Me.
Are you good?
Go
Yes.
ahead, Cresto.
I hope no one's taking notes. You're not taking notes. Please tell me you're not writing anything down. Heavens forbid. If you want notes, I have a 10-page document. I'll send it to you. No problem. Don't take notes. Just relax and enjoy. Participate.
The thing that I want to ask is why Scottish is very popular on the internet media and memes. I see many pages on the internet saying, showing me a Scottish meme.
Scotland. Listen, Scotland's a cool place. Yeah, I wish I mean, I don't know. I wish I was Scottish. I love the fact that they have all these little families which we call clans. So they all have their own tartan. You may have seen the tartan dress, which is like crisscross design. And this goes. They've got such a history, and there's I don't know. It's a very outdoors country. I've been to Edinburgh. It's a beautiful place. And I think they've got my colour hair as well. And it's a very, I mean, England has history as well, but the Scots, I don't know. They have honestly, trust me, as a fellow man, Scottish women have beautiful accents. When you hear a Scottish lady speak, you just want to fall in love. Yeah, because they just have a beautiful voice. It's heavenly. It's heavenly, trust me. I don't know.
Sir,
but they have a lot of personality, the Scots. They really do.
Sir, how about the Scottish cow? Oh,
the Scottish cow with the big horns?
I mean, no. No, it's for another story. I wrong pronounce it. I pronounce it wrong. I heard that Scottish accent is oftenly
very hard to understand.
No, not like that. Not like that. I heard Scottish is oftenly mocked. Yeah,
okay.
The Scottish accent are oftenly mocked.
Right.
That's what
I'll tell you what. Let me explain the next little bit, because it's about the differences. Yeah, the differences of Britain. Let me explain this a little first, and maybe that will make it clearer. Now, when you meet someone, so let's say you meet 5 people and they're all from Britain. You might say, whoa, hang on, you're all so different. I can't believe you're all from Britain, but they are. Now think about Indonesia. Imagine you meeting someone from Sulawesi. They've never left Sulawesi. Think of their background. They live in a small village. Their dad's a farmer. Then you meet someone from Bali. He speaks good English because he's with good day, mate, with an Australian accent, because all he knows his life is meeting Australian tourists because he's surrounded. Then you meet someone from Jakarta. They come from a big city. They live in the capital. They think they're better than everyone else. And maybe their attitude is very different. And then maybe you meet someone from Balikpapan, from Kalimantan. Over there, the electric goes out all the time. They're probably very stressed. There's no internet. There's no electricity. It's oh my goodness. So meeting people in different regions of Indonesia would surprise you for the first time. I mean, if you're from a big city and you meet someone and they say, my dad was a rice farmer, maybe you laugh. Because when was my family a farmer? We go back 500 years in England, everyone was a farmer. Maybe 2% of the population were not farmers. You know, there's the royalty, there's the rich people, and then there's people that could do things like tradesmen that could make shoes, you know, and everyone else was a farmer. I have to go back 500, 600 years to find my family history, you know. My grandfather worked in a hotel. So our background in Indonesia is different, and it's the same in England. We have Wales, Scotland, England. Just think of their own culture, the Scottish dancing, the Scottish clans, the Scottish Highlands. Their countryside is beautiful. Most of them live outside the big cities. Their experience is so different. They have their own language. Their history, they have been bullied by the English. The English kings have been up there and bullied them, have tortured them, have persecuted, which means made their life very difficult. They have a history where really they're very suspicious of English people. Yeah. They drink a lot in Scotland as well. There's a lot of alcoholics in Scotland. That's just how it is. I don't know. They just seem to like drinking. The Welsh are different. The Welsh like singing. The Welsh like rugby. The Welsh have their own language as well. The Welsh had a lot of coal mining in their background. A lot of them worked underground digging coal. So once again, you bring different experiences. Then you just think, okay, England as well, same. Let's think of England. Each area of England has a different accent, a different culture, different experiences. In London think they're the best. They think everyone else are like peasants. They think we're all farmers. They think we have no class. They think we have no culture. They think we speak stupidly. In London, they're quite... They think they are England. London is the capital. London thinks they are the center of the world. But each different area. You go to Newcastle in the northeast, their accent is very hard to understand. The way they've grown up, their traditions, very different. Liverpool, oh, one of the worst accents in the country. The ships came in the past. Their history is full of shipping because the docks were there. So many of the things that came into England came to the Liverpool docks. So they have a history influenced by that. In other parts of the country, you have the Midlands, and in the West Country, in Cornwall, in Devon, they speak with different accents. They're farmers, they're fishermen. They all have different backgrounds. When I speak to them, maybe what I talk about, they have no idea because their background is so different. Yeah. And then just like in Indonesia, you have that urban against agricultural background. If you're from the city, you grow up a little bit more, I don't know what the word is. In England, we say streetwise. If you're from a city, you're streetwise. You know about danger. You know about the risks of life. You know maybe how to look after yourself. It's a sharpness that you need to survive in the city. In the country, life is simpler. Maybe you live with your family longer. Yeah, maybe it's less. There's less choices around. Yeah, maybe people don't have break-ins. They don't have crime. Different experiences again. So it affects your background, affects who you are. So when you meet someone from Britain, the first thing you say, hello, where are you from? Because, whoa, their whole background will be influenced by all those little things. Yeah. So maybe that explains the Scottish thing. The Scottish are very proud. They don't want... The Scottish have got their own parliament. They make some Scottish decisions. They've had elections twice already to decide, do we want to leave England? Do we want to leave Britain? Do we want to be independent again? Their choice. 400 years ago, we would have marched an army up there and crushed them and said, you've got no choice. But now they can choose. Do they want to be free, like many other countries around the world, and choose to be independent? At the moment, they stick with us. But they're suspicious. Rightly so. History teaches us a lesson to always question. So basically there are huge differences, and we'll come on to some more of those, I guess. Okay, that's sort of the background of I guess the background of culture. Now I'm going to get into a little bit more detail, some of the differences maybe. And then I'll talk about sort of maybe life and how it will affect you. Everyone doing okay? It's very hard to actually listen to someone speak. When I was in the classroom with my kids, I had a big board behind me, a big whiteboard it was called. I could use with a pen. I could get the internet on it. You know, if I mentioned something, we could look at Scotland. We could look at people wearing kilts. It's very interactive. It's very fun. You can chalk. It's very different online, very different. I'm going to have a drink. Okay, the first thing, so this is culture, the core of culture. One thing that hits you, if you went to England, you might not realize this, but there is a class system. It's not as obvious now as it was in the past. What do I mean by this? Now, I know India has a huge class structure, and I live in Bali, and they have one here as well. Let me tell you a story in my classroom. Someone came up to me in Bali, and she offered me some fruit. Some apples or something she'd brought into the classroom. I said, no, I've got my own fruit today, but why don't you offer it to some of the other teachers? And she said to me, they cannot take it from me because I'm from a different class to them. Now, I was absolutely shocked. So because her class is lower than the other people that she works with, she can only, there's the restrictions on her. Now, in England, this doesn't exist anymore. The class system has absolutely broken down to such a degree that you barely would notice as a visitor. If you go back 100 years, the rich people, who we call the upper class, had everything. They owned all the business. They made all the decisions. They controlled the law. They could get you in prison for anything, really. Things were very, very different. What changed really was the Industrial Revolution. So Queen Victoria, in that time, machinery came. People came into the cities. It changed my country forever. Britain led the world. This is why Britain is so popular and so powerful. It shouldn't be. It's a small island. This is Britain. This is Indonesia. Why is Britain so powerful? It makes no sense. You have 250 million people. We have 50 million. Yet for hundreds of years, we conquered many countries in the world. Australia, India, many countries in Africa. Wow. We had this history and the Industrial Revolution, machines and business and factories and invention came along and made us very powerful. But do you know what changed it all? And this is going to sound crazy. World War II. The war changed my country forever. World War I happened first, but in these wars, many rich people went to war, and many of them didn't come back from war. So many of them, their families broke down. Also, what happened in war? Men went to war, and they found out that they didn't have to be bossed around anymore. There was a time of great change. In Russia, Industrial Revolution, the people overthrew the leaders. It's happened in France in the past. People came back from the war with different attitudes. It was no longer the bosses and the rest of the people. It was more equal. And the government reflected this. The government of the people got elected and things changed. What else happened in the war? Women got power. How did that happen? Because all the men left the country. They were all in the army. So who was working in the factories? Women. Who was working in the countryside? Women. When the men came back from war, the women didn't want to go back to being housewives. They wanted to have power as well. They wanted more involvement in the country. So things changed hugely after the war. We do still have rich people. We still do have people that own too much and have too much control, but it's much different. Yeah. In the past, it was really rich and poor, and there was a small group of people that had skills. As I say, they made clothes, they maybe run accountants, things like the bankers. But now, people like me, my family, I guess we all have a lot of money. It's changed. Poor people have become rich. There aren't that many poor people. There are still poor people. There are people the government have to help, people they give money to. They give their families money and they still care for them. But many more people, they work and they have a very good standard of living. We call them the middle class because they're educated. I went to university. I was the first one in my family that ever went. But the country was changing. They were trying to help people like me. who came from normal families to go. And it changed. Yeah, things changed. Yeah. So, but class, we take the mickey out of people. The mickey is joking. We're suspicious of people who come from the upper classes because they have money and because they have privilege, because they went to the best schools, because they get good jobs just because of their name. Yeah. That's not my type of people. I wouldn't have a fight with them, but I'd maybe make a joke about them. And most people would, because we're in the majority and they're small and they've abused us. They've abused us through history. Another thing about British people is we're very, it sounds strange looking at me because I have a lot of expression and I'm very open. You can ask me anything. You ask me anything you want. You can ask me about sex, about religion, about anything you want, and I will tell you. But British people are very shy. And sometimes you don't see their emotion. It's hard to know what they're thinking. For example, if you had a British boyfriend, you might think he doesn't like you, but he might love you very much, but he's not showing his affection. He might be embarrassed to kiss you in public. He might not want to hold your hand. Yeah, so we're a little bit shy sometimes in speaking. It's called being reserved. I think we're better now. I think the world has changed. The internet has changed us as well. I get on the line and I've got a big mouth. I say what I like, yeah, because no one can argue with me, yeah? So we can all speak up more online. And I think maybe it's changed our personality. Another thing, as you get older, I was very shy when I was young. But as you get older, you think, well, actually, guess what? I know a bit more now. So I'm prepared to say something instead of being quiet. And also, so what? It doesn't matter. If I say something stupid, maybe my friends will laugh. That's okay, no problem. So we're a bit more confident. We're not going to cry if someone upsets us. Yeah, we're just, yeah. So you change as you get a little bit older, more confident. Now, that shyness we overcome with humor. Now, we are very cutting in our humor. Let's say I haven't seen my friend for 6 weeks. And my friend comes along and I think my friend's put on a little bit of weight. Yeah. Now, my wife is from Surabaya. She would say, you're fat. You're fat now. She's so direct. And oh my God, she's so cutting. But we wouldn't say that in England. I'd make a little comment. I'd say, oh, you've been enjoying your food a bit lately. And that means you've possibly been eating too much. It means you've got fat. But I have said it in a polite way, in a joke. And they would probably say, oh, yes, yes. Yeah, they'd probably laugh because they know they've been fat and they've got a bit put on weight, but you haven't been rude to them. And that's how we do it. We sort of make little comments and you might not understand what we're saying, but we're actually being a bit funny. We might be being a bit rude, or we might be making a point without trying to be rude. And we're very good at it. We do it all the time. Sarcasm. Sarcasm means saying something and you mean the opposite. Like you have a friend you've been listening to and they are very boring, very boring. And you don't know, you say, it's been lovely listening to you. It's been lovely spending time with you. But really you mean, oh my God, it's been horrible. You're so boring. I wish I hadn't met you, you know? So sometimes we're a little bit sarcastic and it takes a while to get that humor. It's very clever. And there's so many layers of it. There's sometimes some it's historical and you have to have lived in England to get it. And but we're very funny. We're very funny. And we're funny about ourselves. We say people like that make ourselves look stupid. We say you know, and it's fine. It's okay. No one gets upset about it. It's just part of who we are. The British humor. And no one in Europe gets us. The French, they got no humor at all. Zero. Yeah, the Italians, well, maybe. The Germans are okay. The Germans get it. They get it. The Germans are quite funny. But the rest, nah, no humor. No humor at all. The Japanese, of course, are crazy. You ever seen one of those Japanese shows? Oh, their humor. what are they like, putting worms up their nose? I mean, their humor is just off the scale. I don't know where they're coming from, the Japanese. But so I don't know. I don't know about. I can't speak Bahasa, so I don't know what my wife's humor's like. Yeah, so I don't get Indian. I don't know Indonesian humor, but we're funny. Trust me, English people are funny. Oh dear, time for a sip. Okay, I mentioned this before. This is a strange one. Religion. This will shock you. Okay, here's a question for you. What religion is the most practiced religion in England? What I mean by which religion are people actually maybe going to their religious place of worship, or maybe reading a religious book, or maybe praying? Which religion is the most practiced in England? What do you think? I can't hear you.
What do you think? Anyone?
Christianity, of course, isn't it? No, it's not. Wow, it's not Christianity. Everyone born in England, really, in the past, was automatically Christian, because we have a Christian church. It's called the Church of England. So you're just automatically really become a Christian unless you have a faith. The most practiced religion in England, Britain, is Islam. How's that happened? What's happened here? It's because we've had so many people come to our country, and many of them have come from very religious countries, and they have brought their religion with them, and they are very devout. They are very, they keep their religion and they practice their religion. I don't know what's happened in England. It's a Christian country. Now, through history, Christianity has caused many problems. The argument with the two churches, many religious wars, many things. The Christian, sometimes the church has got a little bit too involved in politics and have made decisions, almost laws, and maybe made people unhappy. I think people maybe lost faith. The wars were huge. Once again, the wars were huge. People went, millions, whole villages went away to war, and 90% died in the first war. It came back, and devastation. How could there be a God if this was happening? It makes you question. I don't know what happened. Since the war, since the Second War, the attendance of churches, it's got less and less, but there was always pressure from kings and queens to go to church. You had to. If you didn't go, there was a problem maybe in your town or village. But since the war, there's more freedom. We know. Liberty, make your choices. People don't go to church anymore. We get married in church. There's a crazy hypocrisy about it. Yeah, all these religious people that get married in church that really aren't religious, but they still like a church wedding. Oh, that's very nice. So churches, and this will be crazy. I've seen churches in my city of Leeds turned into restaurants. A church turned into a home. Church turned into a community centre. A church now used as a business. If I said to someone who was a Muslim, we're going to change your mosque into a pub, oh my God, think of the effect that would have. But no one's questioned anything. Churches now, there were so many churches, they're used as these things now. Yeah. If you went to a church, you popped in maybe for a Sunday service, you'd probably find a handful of people, and they'd probably all be in their 80s. All be older people. Yeah. I've got some statistics. It shocked me, really. Every 10 years in England, our government asks the whole population, and it's the law to answer. You get something, form sent through your letterbox to every house in the country. Last time, 2011. It's going to happen this year, 2021. You have to fill in every page, answer the questions. It's called a census. We have so much information about our population. This is great. The Indonesian government should do it, but it's costs money. It's hard to check. You could lie, but it's the law. You tell the truth and you fill it in, and they chase you up. 25 in the last census, 2011, 25% of people in Britain, said they didn't have a religion. 25%, no religion. But even worse, 50% said they don't believe in God. Wow. And 73% in a recent survey said they don't practice a religion. 73%. And like we say, the biggest practice religion in England is Islam now. So will that influence? Maybe that's going to influence our culture in future. Yeah. So there's one influence. Religion, not really an important factor anymore in England. Families are an important factor, really big. You listen to your father. I think people are close to their families. But what's changed in families? What's changed is work, just like people in Indonesia. When you grow up, you go to college in a different city. When you leave college or when you get a job, you live in a different city. You don't live close to your families anymore. Yeah, my family lives in London. My mum and dad live there. My sisters live there. They still see each other quite a lot. Yeah, but many families are spread around. So the family unit was broken down. No one in England lives with their grandparents. In Indonesia here, in Bali, in my community where I live, people are living with their grandparents. They're all in the same house, or they've got houses next to each other. Yeah, very close to their family. Yeah, this is a strange one. When you grow up as a child, your family maybe help you with money. So I want to buy a house. The family will maybe help you with some money. You know, your parents, yeah, we've got, yeah. Maybe when you get married, your family will, yeah, we've got some money, we've saved some money, we'll give it to you. But we never help our parents. So the expectation on me to help my parents doesn't exist. So in Indonesia, it's very different. My wife gives money to her family, to her parents. If they need help with maybe medical expenses, she'll help with that. Other things, there's a bit more support structure. Completely different in England. The family, the parents will help their children, but as soon as it's like downwards, as an adult, I help my children. And that's something we didn't mention actually, because I have a daughter in England. We'll come on to that maybe in a second when we talk about maybe meeting partners. But just like in Indonesia, families are very small and much smaller now than they were in the past. Usually because of this, when we do this, we mean money. It costs so much to live in England. Families are smaller because having bigger families costs more money. You need a bigger house, you can't afford a bigger house, so smaller. We have same-sex families now. We have many single parents. I've got a statistic. I can't find it. Single parents. Many single parent families now. So just a woman, traditionally a woman living on her own with a child. So the family unit is changed very differently. Yeah. When the government surveyed people, money issues, in that sense, it's money issues were the biggest worry for any family. Yeah. And you'll find the knock-on effect is, of course, mum and dad both work. When I was young, my mum stayed at home. She looked after me. And when my sisters came along, she looked after them. My mum never worked. My dad worked. My dad brought the money to the house. Yeah. We didn't have lots of money, but we had enough money. We had a holiday every year. We had enough money. And then when the children all grew up, my mum went back to work. She was a secretary. So I don't know whether she did it for money or whether she was bored or she wanted to meet friends. It was her choice, but there was no pressure on her. She did it because she wanted to. So it would be very hard to find a family in England where mum and dad don't both work. You have to work because you need the money, unless maybe one of you earns a lot. And you can support the family. So once again, rich people, maybe the wife stays at home, a bit more traditional in that sense. So the family unit there, yeah. We're doing okay? So my name is David. My name is David Mark Aldridge. David Mark are my first names. My parents just choose. In the olden days, it was often religious. David and Mark are very popular names in the Bible, And my parents are very simple people, really. Quite boring names, really. In my class at school, there were 4 kids called David. I mean, mate, 4 kids called David. It was crazy, yeah. And then the tradition is to put the family name at the end. So my surname is called surname, or family name is Aldridge. And that comes from my father. So my father was an Aldridge. My mum had a different name. She was in a different family. And when you marry, you take the husband's name. So my wife now has taken my name, and that's sort of how it happens in England. In Indonesia, she just maintains her own name. In fact, my wife is Buddhist, and she doesn't, and she's from Java. She doesn't actually have a family name. It's absolutely amazing for me. In her family, she has 2 brothers and a sister, and all of them have different names. There's no connection in their name at all. My sister's called Kathy Aldridge. My other sister's called Claire Aldridge, and I'm David Aldridge. So there's the family connection at the end of names. So that's how we name our children there. Yeah, very simple. We've talked about, I've got here gender. Genders are very influential in our culture. Women changed completely, even in my lifetime. The war changed everything. Women working in the factories, in the fields, and the role of women has, is it equal? There's an interesting question. Almost. A woman can get any job a man has. A woman is paid almost the same. A woman probably stays at home to look after the children if it comes down to it. I always said I'd happily do it myself. If my partner enjoyed their job and they wanted to do that, they could earn a lot, I'd happily stay at home. I think it suited my skills. I became a teacher. Maybe I'm good with children. I don't know, but there's still tradition there that the woman will be the carer of the children at home. But there's a lot of equality now. Sometimes it comes in a bad way, actually, because funny enough, I think when I was younger, when maybe I saw girls that I liked, they were a bit more feminine, a bit more, it was clear that this was a woman and this was a man. I think now the roles are very similar. When I'm back in England, I see women going out drinking at night, and they go out, they get drunk, and they're, this sounds horrible, they act it like men. So women have had the ultimate freedom now to do what they want, and they've chosen to act in the same manner that men have acted throughout history. The man worked all week in a factory, and then at the weekend, he went to the pub and he got drunk with his friends. And now women are choosing that option as well, because they're free to choose that option. So genders vary, it's become very, I mean, women are running businesses. Yeah. So it has a big influence, I think, on who we are back there. Right. So I have a daughter in England. In England, you don't have to get married to have children. In Saudi Arabia, possibly something more severe would have happened. Maybe I'd have been imprisoned. In England, you can have a girlfriend, you can have a partner, you can just even have a friend. You can live together without being married. You can have children without being married. Some people never marry. Some people stay together forever. There's actually, the law has changed to give them rights as well now. So you can be accepted as a couple with rights of being married when you're not actually married. At about the age of 30 years old, I had a good friend who was a neighbor of mine. She lived where I lived, close by. And she was worried that she was never going to have a child. She'd reached that age. She was about 32, and she split up from her last boyfriend, and she thought they were going to marry. She was going to have a family, and it didn't happen. And she was worried. And she asked me, would I have a child with her? And it was fine with me. I agreed that. And so she had a child. So I have a daughter who's now 23 years old. And what a wonderful thing to have a child. And I'm strangely enough, I'm very close, even though I live overseas, I'm very close to my daughter. Spoke to her this morning on the phone, and she's been to Bali twice to see me. The relationship with her mother was very difficult. Strangely enough, we were very good friends until she had our child. And when she had our child, I think some things get in your head a little bit. I think maybe she wanted to bring up her own child, and it was fine. I gave her plenty of freedom, but I think maybe she was a little embarrassed as well of the circumstances, and it was very difficult to actually get along. And one of the reasons, I won't say it was the only reason, one of the reasons for being overseas and working was to get away from the situation there. It's true. She was very difficult. She just made my life uncomfortable a lot of the time, very critical and very negative. My daughter used to visit every weekend. So every weekend she'd stay over at my house. We'd do stuff together. And I think her mum was a little jealous because her mum had a tough life. She got herself a new partner, and her life was, my life's always been I'm living a free life. I don't have to change nappies. I don't have to manage a child. My daughter visits me at the weekend and we have fun. So I'm the fun dad. And, we eat out, we maybe go do something special. We go go-karting, or, wow, we go to the cinema. We always watch Harry Potter. We grew up with Harry Potter. Every Harry Potter movie was our thing. I read all the books. She didn't, funny enough, but we watched every movie. So as Harry grew up, my daughter grew up with Harry Potter, so very very close to Harry Potter, and got a lot of time for him and what he went through. So yeah, it was quite nice, and it's something to really sort of, I'm getting a bit emotional now. It was a nice thing to have a child, a nice thing to have someone that you sort of feel a great intense love for, But as I say, in England, no demand to be married. Very strange. My parents thought it was very strange, but they sort of accepted it because there was nothing they could really do about it, so how it was. It was unfortunate because my parents lived in London, I lived in Leeds, so they very rarely saw my daughter. But now they've got new grandchildren, and my sister has got children, so that's nice for them, because grandparents often play a role in helping look after children when maybe mum or dad are working. So they have to be close by to do that. 50% of people who marry in Britain get divorced. It makes you wonder why they bother, really. Church weddings are still very popular, although I didn't marry in a church wedding. You have an option in England. In Britain, you can marry in the church, or in your religious place of worship, or you can marry in what we call a civil ceremony. So I went to, not very pretty actually, I went to an office, and an official person married me with my wife in an office. But I did experience something a little bit different, because in Jakarta, I married my wife in a Buddhist temple. So lots of gold leaf and things like this, and a bit more ceremonial, shall we say, very different. So I've experienced that side as well. But that's shocking statistic, isn't it? My sister now, she's got 3 children. She's separated from her husband. So half of all marriages end in divorce. And people are getting married. I married very late in life. I married at about 44. And I think when you're older, you know yourself. So maybe you choose a better partner, someone that matches you. And in Britain now, people are marrying older. The average is, I think, 30 for women and 33 for men. But we're still making these mistakes. We're still maybe marrying the wrong person. I think sometimes we're a bit confused with sex and love. I think what's around us, the internet, maybe our friends, we get a bit confused. Maybe we marry, this influences this. Maybe we don't find the right partner to be with, and instead we marry someone for a different reason. Maybe someone that we like the look of. So who knows? But there's something going wrong still, and I think money pressure Money pressure is another thing that really puts families under pressure and just makes it very tense in the home. And all the normal stuff. I think people maybe in the past they were not prepared. They were more prepared to put up with stuff. I'll tell you a big secret. My dad's losing his mind. Yeah, my dad's nearly 80, and a few years ago I went home to visit him, and he was driving in the car with me, and he said, "When I was young, I had an affair and cheated on your mum." I said, "What?" I said, "Dad, you don't tell me stuff like this. She's my mother." What? He said, "I was really embarrassed." He said, "I was young and I was stupid, and it was just for sex, really, because your mum had, children at home, and I just felt trapped." And I goes, "Dad, just let it go. Don't tell me anymore. Just finish." But he wanted to share it with his son. Oh my God, whatever. But there you go. So things happen, and my mum stayed with him, thank God, because very difficult one-parent families. But I think now my sister's separated. Her husband was so stupid. He had an affair, and she said, okay. He was very sorry. They separated, got back together, and then he's a serial gambler. He goes on the internet and he gambles. He's gambled away thousands of dollars gambling online. And twice it happened, and my family helped him. And she said, if it happens again, finish. And it happened again because he's addicted to it. So I think nowadays maybe people are not prepared to put up with that. Maybe before in the past, people kept it quite embarrassing. Don't let the neighbors know. Don't let people know. It looks bad on me if we separate. They stay together for the children. Now people can handle it. They separate. They go and live on their own. They take the family. So divorce. I've got a life to, maybe they say, well, my marriage with you is broken down, but I want a life with someone else. So I'm not just accepting this rubbish marriage for the rest of my life. I think I'll have another marriage somewhere else, so learn from my mistakes. So maybe that contributes to that. I don't know. It's a huge thing, isn't it? How do we meet people? The same old ways. Family, work's huge, So many teachers marry teachers. Yeah. I'll tell you something, teachers are boring. They're boring. They work too much at home. Yeah. Too much. Oh my God, they're boring. So I didn't marry a teacher. Thank God for that. A little bit of joke, but there's a little bit of serious in that as well, because I think teachers do work too much. When I was working 50 to 60 hours a week. It's too much. I get up at 4 a.m. I work before I go to school. I go to school, I come home, I'm exhausted. How can I have a happy life with a wife if I'm exhausted? I'm just working as well, marking, too much. Don't marry another teacher if you're a teacher. So people do meet at work. It's a common place. Of course you meet someone at work because you hang around together and you get to know someone, you laugh together and you share life together. So you marry someone at work so many times. Online has become huge. I met my wife online. I met the girlfriend I had before I met my wife in England online. We had a long distance relationship. Never had one of those. They're a nightmare. Met her online. Loved her very much. But internet dating, it's opened the world. Why do I like internet dating? Surely it's better just to bump into someone and fall in love. Yeah, it's my cousin. Wow, I love them. Yeah, I've met them over a number of times. This colleague I work at school, get to know them slowly but surely. Great, natural. But how am I going to find someone that matches with me? Someone that wants the same things as me. When I click on the internet, I find that person so quickly. I see their religious choice. I see how they want to have their life. I see what they enjoy doing. It just gets rid of all that mess, I could go on a date with someone, have a nice time, get to the end of the evening, and then she says something that goes, whoa, no, I find something out that it's just a no. Maybe she takes drugs. I don't know. And no, I can't be with you. And all that time wasted. Wow, crazy. On the internet, find it out quickly. Oh, she looks nice. Read all about her. Yeah, I think we're a match. Oh, I've got a much higher chance of working now. So I don't know. Anyone experience internet dating? Come on. No one? I see some of you laughing. You've tried it, haven't you? Yes, you must. It's different now. People, you know, you can, all this stuff, you use your phone, you're in a restaurant and someone over there's contacting you. I mean, it's changing all the time. I go back 20 years, there were no internet, there were no computers. I mean, the world is a changing place, you know, use the technology. Marley, no one's owning up to having internet dates here. I bet half of them have had an internet date, surely. No?
They're still young, maybe.
Hey, maybe, yeah. Hey, love starts young. There's no age limit to love. Yeah. I was watching that movie the other day. I can't remember what it's called. It's Love Actually. And the little boy is falling in love with the girl at school. Yeah. Oh, how he's 9 or something. See? There's no age barrier for love, Marley. No age barrier. Yeah. Anyway, this is the last bit of this section. And this is all about when you meet someone in England, you know, what happens. And it's quite informal, really. So I guess it depends on the circumstances. So let's say, for example, I don't know, we could meet in a shop. We really could. You know, I talk to people I'm in the supermarket and maybe I'm talking to you and I just, hello, I'm David. And I'd probably say my name and how are you? I'd always, in England, it's like here, I can't even say in Bahasa. We'd probably say, how are you? And we'd probably asked where you're from. Quite informal, first names. Men often shake hands, especially when they maybe haven't seen a friend for a long time. Women hug and kiss. Become very popular now. I think it's come from Europe. It's come from Italy and France. You know, this peck on the cheek thing. Never happened before. But we use first name terms. I think if you were meeting someone for business, if you went for a job interview, you'd always shake hands. And you'd call him Mr. What annoys me in Bali here is all the workers, you call me Mr. or call me boss. No, I hate that because boss is like slavery talk. You go back to, you know, 18th century America and the American slaves will work for the boss. So boss is, or prison, even in a prison, they always call them boss, didn't they? So I hate that. And I always try and explain, look, I'm not your boss. Your boss is the person, you know, that pays you a salary. And you don't even have to call me Mr. It's a mark of respect, but it's okay. Sir is what you're saying. Yes, sir. Can I help you? That's fine, no problem. But we're very informal with our friends and very relaxed. Let's say if you were meeting up somewhere, if I invite you around my house, you know, I tell you, you'd probably not turn up. You wouldn't just knock on the door and say, hi, I've come to visit. You say, oh, that'd be a bit shocking. Yeah, I'd probably invite you beforehand. I'd say, would you like to come around at the weekend? You know, I'd give you a time. Come around at about 2 o'clock. And that's okay. You could get there at 2 o'clock or 2:15, you know. If I said, oh, let's go to a restaurant and we're meeting at 6, then you've got to get there at 6. Because obviously we're going to order food and it'd be a bit annoying if you were late. It's quite important at times. But if you're meeting friends, you know, I've got a party. I get there around 7. Yeah, you could probably get there at 7:30, maybe even 8. That's okay. A bit more relaxed with friends, you know. Come over and play computer games. Come and play your PlayStation with me. Yeah, it's okay. Get there after lunch. Yeah. Open, wide open. Sometimes we bring a gift. So if maybe if I'm going to meet, let's say I go with my wife and I'm going to meet her mother for the first time, I might take maybe some chocolates or flowers. If I come round to my friends, they've invited me round to eat at their house. Maybe I'll take a bottle of wine, maybe some chocolates because I like chocolates. Hope to get some myself, you know, a bit selfish. And also I don't drink alcohol, so I tend to not really know about wine because I don't know what bottle to choose. It's a bit uncomfortable, but so yeah, it's quite relaxed, quite informal, really, meeting up with people. Yeah. So that's sort of I don't know, that's sort of the British culture. Anyone want to comment or while I sip my water? I'm going to talk about the way of life a little bit. Huh?
Any question, everyone, about the culture of
You can be as personal if you want. A person, if you want to ask a personal question about me, that's fine. If you want to ask a general question, that's okay as well.
Be free to do that. Anyone? Grace, did you ask your friends to help you to ask the question? Or can we hear you directly ask the question? Your speaker is okay now?
Yes, ma'am. I have two device.
Okay.
So my question is, could you tell us what is the biggest differences between England and Indonesia?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Now, I was going to come on to way of life next, how we live our lives. There are so many differences. And funny enough, I was thinking because I've been thinking about this the last few days. One of the crazy ones is in my room here, I have aircon. In England, we don't have aircon because it's a cold country. We have heating. So we have electric fires, we have gas fires. So we don't have any aircon in our house. So straight away, that might think, wow, that's a huge thing. The difference is, I think another thing that hits people when they arrive here is the transport. I was going to come on to transport a little bit, but obviously I love it here because I ride a moped. I love the equality of really having everyone having a moped. I hate it when people have cars because to me, car means money. Car means, look at how much money I've got. Car means I'm better than you. Now, that might surprise you. That's how I think. That's how English people think. It's like I'm showing off. English people do show off. Competition to get a new car. Don't need to do it. I'm a little bit different. I'm in Indonesia now. Life's very simple. People here are happy. People aren't happy in England. It's a competition, yeah, to get material things. So I love it when I see the street full of mopeds here. It's very hard to see a moped in England. What's different is people walk in England. When I go to the local store here to buy some chocolate, because I like it a lot, or ice cream, I get on my moped. It takes me 2 minutes. I would never do that in England. I'd walk to the shop. I do my shopping at the supermarket. I might walk 20 minutes. Sometimes I walk into the main town centre. That's 30 or 40-minute walk. I walk there. What we also have here, which is huge, is public transport. Public transport comes in two forms, buses and trains. Trains connect the cities really, and also they go into the center of the city, like the train system they built in Jakarta to take you from the airport, yeah, to the center of the city. But buses are huge. Every community, your community would, in England, if you lived in that community, you would have buses to take you all around the city. They're cheap and they run every 20 minutes. So I can get a bus to go shopping, to go into town, to go here, to go there. I don't need to own a car. I don't need to own a bike. So that is huge. I walk. Walking is so healthy as well. Good for your legs, keeps you in shape, and using public transport. So that's a government thing. The government every city has buses to take you around the city. And that's, it's just, wow. That's great for the environment, of course, because one bus can carry 50 people. Not everyone on their moped and everyone choking on the fumes. But of course, mopeds are great because they're small and they're cheap and they can help you go from here to there. So it's huge. Mopeds are huge. And you notice it. You go to Vietnam, you go to Malaysia, you go to all over Southeast Asia. Mopeds are everywhere. Yeah. So that's a huge thing. You can talk about individual things, personal things. I think my wife is more traditional. I think I come from a slightly more, I don't want to be rude here. My country is a little bit more advanced. I think the experiences I've had in life a little bit more advanced from my wife. I've experienced more crime. I've lived in a big city. I've lived on my own, in my own home. Many people move out from their family home. It doesn't always happen because it costs so much. So sometimes you may live at home with your family until you can afford to. But as soon as you can afford it, you move out and live on your own or with friends. You might rent a house or a flat with friends. Here, people stay more at home, so much more. My wife lived with her family until I married her. I mean, I lived on my own when I was 18. My wife, she was 34. She's living at home all that time. That's huge. That means close family unit, and that means less experiences. Think of the things you do with your family watching you, how different it is your family not watching you. And experiences of life, just life in general. Money, how to handle money. Yeah, how to, even my education, some of the things my wife knows from her education is not as strong. Relationships, maybe I've had more experience with that. Just every aspect of life. So you could say maybe Indonesia a little bit more traditional, definitely more religious. My wife is affected. Religion affects her a lot more. She's her daily life is determined, by that in many ways. So on a personal level, I think you've got meaning, and you could, some of you, if you're religious, you're going to say it's coming from my religion, but it could well be. Indonesians still have their religion. People here have, I think you have more meaning to your life. I think in a way in Britain, we've lost a purpose. I don't think we can find happiness. We've lost happiness. Money is just about money, and money determines the life. You have money, you're happy. It's not true though, is it? Yeah. I get happy just sitting in the sun. I get happy reading a book. It makes me happy. Some people need to shop. Yeah, what? Doesn't make you happy. Simple things make you happy. We walked down the beach this morning with my 3 dogs. It was a happy experience. So Indonesia, I don't know. I think maybe that's a big difference. Maybe Indonesia and Southeast Asia still knows what happiness is. They know what family is. Maybe they have meaning in their lives. But definitely transport, bikes are huge. Whoa. There's so many other things. Men smoke all the time. Every man. Where is he? Christo, do you smoke? Does Christo smoke? Not if Christo smokes. Does Christo smoke? Every Indonesian male smokes. What's this all about? I don't get this at all. It's just so bad for your health. It's just crazy. But they all smoke. That's something you notice as well. How many men are smoking here? Yeah. It's funny though. Like I lived in Istanbul in Turkey. Now Istanbul is a crazy city because some of it's Islamic and some of it's Christian. It's a very diverse city. But if you go out at the weekend, 90% of the people you see are men. It is such a male-dominated country, and it hits you straight away. You sort of think, hang on a minute, where are the women? And you see the younger women there, because the younger women have been to college, they're educated, they're starting to change the country and change the culture. But it hits you. All the older men are outside and the women are just not there. So things do hit you in different countries. Yeah. Obviously, the temperature hits you huge here. I wouldn't be sweating in England. In England, the sky is grey. I was going to come on to life. Anyone else got a question? Come on, I know you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all right.
Any more questions?
I think it's different. You've got to be the right type of person to have a partner from a different country. I think the differences between us are there and they can be overcome. You can get a European partner. You can get an Australian partner if you want one. But there are differences, and there will be times when those differences challenge you. And it might make you uncomfortable, and you might want to change, and you might not want to change. And it's hard to overcome sometimes those differences. If they're big ones, you can't overcome it. Yeah, so always be aware. That's There will always, it's just from our life, from our experience and what we've grown up. Yeah. Anyone want to just make a comment or say anything so far?
Anyone?
You're doing good, by the way. Some of you still look awake. It's really cool.
Hi, sir. I would like to ask a question. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, of course I can. I'm sorry. I was trying not to be rude.
Okay. I heard you have been teaching in school. Am I right?
Yes, that's right. I've been teaching for 25 years.
Okay. So could you tell a little bit about culture in the school, like social environment of students? Thank
Do
you.
you mean what it's like to be a teacher, or how do we do it?
Like,
Is that about the culture?
yeah, culture. I'm sorry.
The culture or at the school?
At the school, like social environment of students.
And then the environment of the students.
It's a very strange world being in a school, because I work with other teachers, but I don't see them at all. I never have a chance to talk to my workmates, because in the morning I get to school very early. So maybe you come to school at 8 o'clock. I get to school maybe at 6:30. I'm in my classroom immediately. I spend all that time getting ready. Then my children come, they arrive in the classroom. I'm with them the rest of the day. When do they leave? Maybe they leave at 3 o'clock. I'm with the children, me and them in the classroom. Maybe we have an assistant. It's like our own little world. You will know this. I'm a primary school teacher. When you teach high school, you go to different teachers. It's a little different. Primary school is like my family. When I married my wife, I said to her, I do not want any children. If you want to marry me, you have to be happy not to have children. And she asked why. I said, well, and it sounds selfish because I have a daughter already. I said, look, my kids at school are my family. I give everything to my children. And when I get home, I haven't got any more to give. If you have children, you have to give to them. You have to talk to them. You have to play with them. You have to listen to them. I see people all the time. I see people on the street. I see Boule not talking to their children. They say, oh, I'm a good parent. No, you're not a good parent. They don't know their children. They don't. Yeah, I give everything. My kids. I make the classroom a place to learn. The classroom a safe place. The classroom somewhere where you have fun. If we make a mistake, we can laugh. Because if we make a mistake and we're scared, we're not going to make the mistake again. We're not going to take a chance. So in our classroom, if there's a chance to laugh, we laugh. And when it's time to work, we work. I have a reputation. My classroom was a nice one. It's a shame Cindy's not here. It was a happy place. But it was molded by me. The teacher creates their classroom. You got to be very careful. It's very easy to do that wrong. It's very easy to be too bossy because you're in charge. It's like I'm like God in the classroom. It's quite scary, really. If I say things to the children, they believe what I say. Yeah. Although nowadays children are so cheeky, they say, that's not true. I saw that on the internet. So children now, it's a little bit more, when I was at school, I was scared of the teacher. I don't want the children to be scared of me. When I speak with a certain voice, it's time to be serious, but you don't need to be scared. You're not going to learn anything being scared, really. So lovely experience. Beautiful thing to do. Love it. So hard, such a hard job. You do any other job, it's nowhere near as tough as being a teacher. I tell you now, I've done 3 other jobs. They were easy. Every minute, every second you're thinking because someone may be struggling. You're seeing little situations you have to maybe control and handle in a delicate, sensitive manner. There's so many skills involved. It's like you have a personal relationship with every child and you can't make a mistake. You got to be perfect. It is so demanding. And then you're trying to teach as well. you know, and you've got to prepare and make it fun and motivate and do all the things you've been taught to do as a teacher. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you see another teacher and maybe the kids are going home and you just have 10 minutes. And that's it. And the job's very strange. And you go home and you're exhausted and all you're thinking of at home is the next day. Don't forget, get this ready, prepare this. Da, 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 da. It's a crazy world. It's just, you have no idea unless you're a teacher. But it's a lovely job, really. Lovely job. Yeah. Is that sort of what you wanted to hear? Listen, there are some teachers that are not good teachers. I go into a classroom and I can see a good teacher in 5 minutes. Yeah. It's just their manner, the way they speak, their classroom, the way the kids talk to them. You just see it straight away. Some people, it's just a job. Yeah, they go in, they do the job, they go home. Yeah. Other people, it's more like everything. Yeah. Anyone else want to? Should I talk about the way of life? Let's a couple of things sort of a bit more practical in England, Britain. What do you think, Marlene?
Yes.
Yeah.
You may proceed to the next one. Huge factor in England. Everyone talks about it. It's the weather. Da, da, da. Now, it's not very exciting in Indonesia because it's the same all the time. Very boring. Although I like it. I like the bright sunshine. In England, it's a nightmare. There are 4 different seasons. Right, girls, get ready. 4 different seasons. You need to have 4 different sets of clothes because in winter, it's freezing. You need jumpers, heavy clothes, everything made of heavy, thick material to keep you warm. Then there's spring. It's going to rain. You need boots, you need coats to keep the rain off, you need lighter clothes because it's not cold, it's just raining all the time. Then there's summer. You need like nice shirts, maybe some shorts, different shoes, maybe sandals. And then it's autumn. It's very windy and you need scarves and stuff like this all the time. In my wardrobe in Indonesia, and this comes back, in Indonesia, 2 t-shirts and 2 pairs of shorts. Da, da, da. I can survive in Bali. In England, I've got loads and loads of clothes. I need about 6 coats. I've got about 8 pairs of shoes for different weathers. The weather is grey. The sky is grey. Every day, your mind is affected by grey sky. You leave in the morning and you are depressed. And you look at the sky and it makes you sad. And it's like that for 8 months of the year. Yeah, the weather's huge. So English people talk about the weather all the time. Oh, it's a nice day today because makes us so happy when it is a nice day. But when it rains, it's not like Indonesia. It doesn't come down like crazy. It's really a bit lighter. It lasts longer. So it might rain like for 2 days, but it's sort of gentle and it's not so bad. But it's just sort of constant. It's in Bali, it pours for 30 minutes and then the sun comes out and everything's happy again. So English people talk about the humor, about the weather, and it affects our mood. I think we've got a lot of depression problems and it's all about the weather. You don't realize sun, brightness, cheerful. If it's sunny, I don't care what I'm doing. I am cheerful. Getting around, we talked about that. It's very easy to get around in England. You can walk everywhere. You can walk so many places. In your community, you will have restaurants, you will have bars, you will have shops, you will have friends living nearby. You can walk to them all. You can get on a bus. A bus is going to cost you, it's more expensive now. Yeah, it costs a bit more expensive now, but it won't cost much. And you can go, obviously you can extend your trip. Public transport is very important because if you're working in England, you often use public transport to get to work. So it's a service. So you can get the bus to work in the morning or you can get the train. Fantastic service. And
You don't realize how good it is until you go to Hong Kong or Singapore, because their public transport is even better. Japan is fantastic. Japan has better transport because it's all modern. Singapore, Hong Kong, more modern than England, and it's cheaper. For some reason, Indonesia hasn't got this. Now, I mustn't get political here because it's not my country, but someone hasn't spent any money on public transport. And instead, everyone has just got cars and bikes, which is really sad because public transport is a great thing for the people. Yeah, it serves the community and it's better for your environment. Yeah. Eating. Now, eating is a great one because I like to eat. Right. If you're English, you eat 3 meals a day. Breakfast. You're going to laugh at me. My wife has laughed at me every day since I've known her. My wife doesn't eat a traditional traditional Indonesian breakfast. She doesn't eat breakfast. What? Unbelievable. English people eat cereal. Now, in Indonesia, you give cereal to kids. In England, adults eat it as well. I have cereal for breakfast. I might have toast for breakfast. I might have a yogurt and also, of course, a cup of tea. Sarawangi tea, English milk. Lovely. Have it for breakfast. Every day we eat breakfast before we go to work. Now, there's a special type of breakfast you might have at the weekend. You haven't got time during the week because you haven't got the time. You're rushing to work. Cereal is easy. You get the packet, pour it in, milk, blop, 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 blop. Easy. Toast, eat it as you're going out the door. Great. At the weekend, though, a little bit more time. Famous English breakfast. In fact, it's called the English breakfast. Sausage, bacon, tomato, mushroom, beans, egg. Wonderful. Fried breakfast and some fried toast as well with a cup of tea. Classic British breakfast. I do it. I even make it for myself here sometimes. It's that good. Wow. You can't ever have one, Marlene? You can't beat it, really.
I had that time too.
So good.
That's good.
If you go to Scotland, you might get some haggis and some black pudding, bit on the edge, but let's not go there. Now, the second meal of the day is lunch. Now, most people are working, of course, so what you have is you have a light lunch. You might, because it's cost so much in England, people don't really eat out that much. So what you might have is you might take some sandwiches. You know what sandwiches are, I hope. Piece of bread with something in between and another piece of bread. Ooh, what do we put inside? We're a bit boring, really. Cucumber, ham, jam. I don't know. Strange stuff. Chicken, if you've got some, I don't know. So you might have your own little packed lunch, like a school child. Get your packed lunch at work, open it up and eat your sandwiches. Great. If you're not doing that, you might go to a bakery. Now, what's really strange, this is interesting. When you arrive in Indonesia, you notice Bread Talk. Bread Talk sells sort of bread things. In England, we have something very similar, but we call them bakeries. It doesn't sell bread things. It sells, pastry. Now, if you ever get a chance to eat, mate, you can get pastry things here. So we eat pastry. So we eat things filled with fruit or we eat things filled with meat. So one or the other. You might go out and have one of them for lunch as well. You get some sort of pastry. Beautiful, lovely. Very nice indeed. It's like an all-in-one meal. Then when you get home from work, usually you might be with your wife or maybe with your family, you'll have dinner. Dinner's usually a hot meal. So you probably have rice, potatoes or pasta, one of those. When I was, now here we go back in time. My parents have never eaten rice. They've never eaten pasta. They don't eat pizza and they don't, what's the other one? They don't eat noodles. Every day of their life, my parents eat potatoes. Now you can cook potatoes in many different ways, so it's not that boring, but that's how it is. So a traditional meal would have been potatoes, some vegetables and some meat, different types of meat. Sunday is a special day. It'd be roasted, special roasted meat, family tradition. Very, very, quite important really. But yeah, classic British meal. Nowadays, life's changed. We're so busy working. We come home from work. We're exhausted. So what have we bought? We've bought rubbish microwave food. So we go to the supermarket at the weekend. When I was little, there were lots of little shops. No, you go to the supermarket now. You buy everything at the supermarket. You come back with bags and bags of stuff. Microwave food. It's about this big. You peel off the plastic and you put it in the microwave or the oven. It takes 15 minutes to heat up. So you sit there eating your dinner. It's unhealthy and it's full of rubbish. But we're tired. We're lazy. And these meals are cheap. What can I do? We've become an unhealthy nation. Yeah, that's how it is. Strangely enough, another thing you notice about England, Britain, there are not as many. Here, you eat out all the time. My wife's eating out all the time. Street food, don't get it in England. You really don't get street food. So here, huge. Street food is such a part of your culture. In England, you just don't find street food. When I was little, there were no restaurants. You never ate out. The only time was maybe on a birthday, special occasion to go to celebrate. Now, there's more of a culture. It's changed in the last 20 years. Cafe culture, restaurants. People go out. They meet with their friends. They eat out now. We've had so many immigrants come, and this goes back to culture as well. 14% of people in Britain weren't born in Britain. They've come from other countries. We accept them. We accept so many. We are so open, really. They brought their own cultures, which has changed our culture. We have Indonesian restaurants. We have Chinese, Italian. We have Turkish restaurants. We have every type of restaurant. Do you know the favorite food to eat out for British people is curry? Would you imagine that? When I was little, no one ate curry, but now it's the favorite food for British people to eat. Curry from India. Wow. Things have changed. That's what happens when you let other cultures come into your country. They change your own culture. They bring problems as well, but they also bring many positives. So it's changed. People drink coffee out, they get sit in coffee houses, and they eat out in restaurants so much more.
Oops, Mr. D connection. I think it's not really good. Something wrong happened. Oops. Wait. So how's you feeling? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course, ma'am.
Yes,
Of course, ma'am.
That's a lot of expression.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Full expression.
So that's different, you know. Everyone from different country is different. So like for the last 2 weeks we have different kind of people in explaining, but today we have energetic lecture. So did you like it? Did you learn something new from him?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We just wait for a while. So what did you get? Anyone?
Weather affects our mood.
What is that, Tere? Say it again.
The weather affects our mood.
The weather affects our mood. Why is that?
Because when we see the sun shining bright, we always feel cheerful. But when it comes to rain or winter, we feel like we become more lazy, sad, present.
Because the weather is gray, the sky is gray, so it will affect our mood. There's rarely seen the blue sky. That's stated there. Thanks, Tere. Anything else that you find it? Since there is no presentation, PowerPoint presentation, so you have to listen very carefully to do your assignment and then find out what actually that you are going to talk about. And then since the weather is already mentioned by Tere, means that you cannot use the gray weather. All right? Because I already explained it too. Mr. Dia is going to join us hopefully in 5 minutes. Because Bali is always sometimes have a blackout, electricity blackout. So we are lucky actually in Jawa, we do not have this kind of blackout. In the place where I come from, in Balikpapan, where I met Mr. D. Mr. D actually was my colleague when we work at the Australian International School back then in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's 2012. And we always have a blackout almost every week. And it takes a little bit time. Sometimes it will be 2 to 3 hours. So lucky you live right now in Java Island, where actually you do not have that kind of problem compared to other places and having a very, very struggle time just to get an electricity. So wait a second. So anything that you want to share about? What did you, why this, why do you, oh, no. I got an expression from April showing a loving face. Why is that? What is the meaning of that, April? Where's April?
Yes,
April,
ma'am.
yeah, why did you do that? He's funny, isn't he?
Huh?
Mr. D is funny. Do you think so?
Yes, I think so.
Why?
Because he talk with fun expression.
So actually, the assignment that I'm asking you to do is not only about the lesson that you can get it, but also the expression, the body gesture, whatever is that, the idioms, the new words, expression. It can be from the face, it could be from the words used by the speaker. Actually, there are many of things that we can find it. And then for today class, it will be really hard for you since you have to listen very, very, very carefully. Otherwise, you will miss everything because you cannot screenshot whatever you want. There is no information about that one. So you have to listen. Otherwise, you lost. Okay, so we just wait for a while. Perhaps Mr. D is having a blackout. So would you like to share something regarding our today's lesson? If you want to share it, it will be your assignment and then nobody will take it. Anyone want to share something about today's? Oops, wait. Passcode. What is our passcode again? Wait. Where is it? 484950. Anyone want to share something? Something that you got? Just okay, Tanya. Would you? Oh no. Okay, would you like to share it? That will be yours for your social media post for your assignment. Oh, here we go. We got Mr. D back to the air. You need to unmute the.
Is that okay?
Yes, okay.
I was just saying, we're all slaves to technology now. We've become so reliant on technology. When it goes wrong, we don't know what to do.
And frustrating.
I often say that, I often say that the internet is more important to me than oxygen.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God, without internet. Deary me. Anyway, yeah. So eating. I mean, English people have this. There's this funny, crazy little thing. We have something called 11s. So at about 11 in the morning, we like to have a cup of tea, and we also have a mid-afternoon sort of cup of tea as well. We often have those with a piece of cake or a biscuit. Just a sort of an English thing, like Englishness. Let's see. I don't know. It's just it's a strange thing. Englishness. So what do we do? What do we do for leisure time in England? I don't know. I guess it's the same all over the world. I mean, the internet and phones have become such an important thing now that I think we're encouraged in a way to sit at home and use them. I mean, I've had to ban my wife from using her mobile phone if we go to a restaurant. And often I look around in the restaurant and I see people just sitting there, you know, their phone, and none of them are talking to each other. They're just all on their own private phone conversations, or trying to stream it, or trying to get it on their Instagram. And what? Come on. You know, it's all a bit crazy, really. But listen, when I was a little boy, this will tell you very much how England is different. So I'm a little boy, and my mum would take me every weekend to the local park. Now, this is something Indonesia doesn't really have. We have one in the middle of Denpasar here, but it's not really a park. It's really an open piece of land. A park is like that. It's a big field with trees and plants, and you can play football on the grass. And it's a bit more than that. You often have a little playground for children. So there'd be swings and slides and roundabouts and stuff where children play. So children would always go there to play. You often have a pond. Pond is a small bit of water, and there'd be birds in there. And every weekend we'd take bread with us and we'd feed the ducks. So that's a very traditional thing that I did when I was small. People still do that now, but maybe it's not as popular. And often you might have a picnic in the summer when it's good months. You might go with your family. My mum will maybe make something really small, like some sandwiches, and you'd sit there and maybe have some snacks and have a drink and sit on a blanket and sit in the park in the sun, and sort of just, yeah, it was really something you look forward to. And another place, funny enough, next to the park was a library. And that's another thing. You'll just know the school library, where you go and get some books. Well, actually, every town in England, in Britain, had its own library. So my mum would take us at the weekend, Saturday, we'd go to the library, which was next to the park, and we'd change our books. And in the library, there's a section for adults and all different types of books, fiction, information books. The children's section is awesome. And you can go in there and you can sit there all day and just read books. You can take them home. So you can take 4 or 5 books home with you. The next week or next time you come back, you can put the books back and take 5 more. And this is all paid for by the government. That's a great thing, and they're shutting them down now, which is so sad in England. They're just, because they cost so much to run, they're just sort of always trying to save money, and other things have become important. But that was a great thing to do as a youngster. The other thing we always did when my dad was not working, to the seaside, and that means going to the sea with the beach, and that was a super thing. So we're an island, we're a small island, and everywhere you go is not far from the sea. So drive to the sea, it would take about an hour and a half, and we'd spend the day there, and we'd like paddle in the cold sea, and we'd build sand castles, and we'd always have fish and chips. If we went to the seaside, always have an ice cream, and that's the very traditional thing to be doing. And yeah, day at the seaside. You might have noticed there was pictures this year during the COVID restrictions in England. I think there was a day when almost the whole country just broke protocol and just went to the seaside. It was just really quite weird. Yeah, very strange. Yeah, it takes me back a little bit. Another thing that's, I guess, for adults really is that pub culture is very huge. I talked about this a little bit before. In the past, men did traditionally worked, and at the end of the working day, they'd go to the pub and they'd drink with their mates, and that's carried on through time. And there's many pubs in every town, and it was a traditional thing for men to do. Families start in certain areas. Families would go together sometimes, and this has become less and less dominant in my lifetime. When I was young, pub culture was still very strong. When you get to about 18, you can go to pubs, and it becomes the thing to do. I'm a man now, I can go to a pub, and you drink basically by alcohol. And you drink, you chat with your friends, and sometimes there's things like pool, or you can play darts, you can play little sports in there. But and women have obviously, as things have changed, women went to the pubs as well. So that'd be a place where you could check out the local women as well. And but that's changed a lot now. Pubs have become expensive. Alcohol in a pub might be double the price or 3 times more. If you went to a supermarket and bought alcohol there, just like you see in your local supermarket here, there's just I mean, even my local corner shop, there's just so much alcohol in the corner shop, and it's all cheap, and they're offering you offers. You buy a whole crate and you save loads of money. So why do you want to go to a pub? So people now tend to maybe drink at home on their own. Maybe they watch sport on television, because live football is very popular. That's not only watching on television, that's going to the football stadium. And people would drink doing that. So drinking, it's changed the culture. Wine has become popular as well with their partners. Maybe you drink wine with a meal. So there's habits that have changed. Alcohol, it was always beer before. It's changed a little bit more to wine. And people buying their own bottles from and cans from supermarkets. Sport is quite a huge thing. Football was huge for me. You will laugh at me, but I've always explained to people that football is my religion. Now, I have a very close friend here who's a Muslim, and he's also football is his religion as well. They are just passionate about football. I watch football. I play football games online. I read about football. I play football. I moved cities when I was young to follow my football team. When my football team played, I travelled around the country to watch my football team. I've seen 1,000 live football matches. I've just seen football. Now I live in Bali. I watch Bali United. It's just in my culture, watch football. I love the tribalism of it. I like the community that it brings, my fans. My club is a very traditional big club in England, very famous. And part of that, it's like part of me. It's part of who I am and my family. And it sounds strange, but the only way I can explain that is the commitment my wife gives to her religion is similar to the commitment I give to my football team. And it sounds stupid, of course, because football doesn't give me values of life. It's an entertainment, but it's just a passion. It's just a passion, you know? That's very strange. There's other sports that are very popular in England. Horse racing was very popular, racing of horses and racing of dogs. People gambled a lot on that, so that became quite a popular sport. People still gamble on those, but not as many people go and watch. So after the war, you go back 50 years, 50,000 people were going to watch football matches in every city all over the country. Now it's not like that. Now it's more the big clubs, the ones you see on the television, the Premier League. The other clubs maybe get 5,000, maybe get 6,000 crowds. Everything's changed. It's all become money. The world's changing place. Even the atmospheres. When I started going to football, we were standing, we were singing for 90 minutes. They do this at Bali United. It's phenomenal. It's like going back in time. You go to football now, sitting in a seat, you're clapping like you're at the theatre or the cinema. Yeah, different completely. It's just the whole world's changed. There are families there. There are women there. When I started going to football, it was all young men. Yeah, all young men shouting and screaming, my team. Yeah, come on. So it's a change. That's changed as well. And, I mean, some of the things it's changed. There's not as much aggression there now. There was violence, and there still is in Indonesian football. That's been a good thing that's changed, but we've lost a lot of passion and a lot of become a bit, what's the word, sterile. You know, it's sterile now. Sterile means you just not part of it. You're not involved. It's like going to theatre. I don't know if any. My parents went to theatre in London so much. London is huge. It's fact the West End. It's called. It's famous for its theatres. They've been there hundreds of years, and I've seen many live shows. And my wife had never been. So when we went to England, we go to live shows, and we have special Christmas shows called pantos. And you're in the audience, and they're acting on stage, and you laugh, and you know you sing the songs, and it's like all part of the show. But you know, it's just football was like that. It's been involved in it, so that was great. It's like watching a movie. You sit there quietly, you watch a movie. Yeah. Cinema's made a comeback, really. Cinema was huge. Before I was born, cinema was huge in England, but then obviously videos came out, television came out. I guess people watched at home more. Cinemas became expensive, but then there's been a resurgence the last 20 years. You know, it's somewhere to go. You go to a cinema complex, they have maybe 10-pin bowling, they have a cinema there. You meet your friends. It's become a little bit more fun, you know. The culture around cinema, you get your popcorn and you know you live the cinema, so it's good. I like, yeah, the more we get out the house and do stuff together, I think it's really good. You know, we try and go to the cinema here. Unfortunately, Indonesia's a little bit obsessed with certain style of movies, and it's very hard to find. It's just Marvel comics, like world, every movie seems to be. I hate Marvel. I hate those type of DC comic Marvel. Oh no. Like movie with heart, with action, you know, drama, not Marvel comics. No, it's all fake. So I do like the cinema though. So yeah, different things there. Playing sports huge. I play football every weekend for my school, all through school, for high school, for primary school, after school, or university. I play football. The sports fields are disappearing all over. Everyone played football before, but the government are building houses on them, and they cost too much, just disappearing. And rugby's a sport. People play tennis. Swimming's popular, but you need obviously a sports centre. It's a huge thing that's changed in the last 20 years is gym membership. And the same things happen here in Bali. Some of the gyms are absolutely packed. They want big money every month. What was I paying? I was paying 1 million rupiah. Going back 20 years. 20 years ago, I was paying 1 million rupiah a month to be a member of the gym. You come home from work, you're a bit tired, you don't want to go. So you might go once or twice a week. Wow. So gyms became huge. Bit boring, really. But still popular. It keeps you healthy. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing to be healthy. But once again, you know, I like sports. I like competitiveness. Gym. Choices, isn't it? Lots of choices in Britain. Lots of choices. You're never bored. You can pick 5-10 people off the street, all with different backgrounds, all with different pastimes, all with different hobbies. Yeah. Console games changed the world. Everyone's playing console games online on their phones now. Yeah, people aren't socializing. Your friends are online friends now, cyber friends. I've got lots of friends. They're all cyber friends. Have you met them? No, I've not met them. World. Yeah. I think we're tired there, Marlene. I've got some do's and don'ts, but I don't know whether you want to hear them. I think people want to go and eat.
We would like to hear the do's and don'ts.
Really? Oh, don'ts. Do you know, it's really funny. The biggest thing that I think, another thing, someone before, was it, someone asked, what another difference? The driving is hugely different here. Do you know, in England, if you don't wear a helmet on your bike, if you drive up the street the wrong way, if you don't use your signal when you turn, if you beep your horn at someone, there's going to be problems. There's just going to be problems. If you beep your horn at someone, the person in front will get out of the car and probably come and hit you in the face. There's an aggression on the streets. That comes from the pressure of life, the work pressure, the money pressure. There's aggression on the streets, the way people drive so much. Also, you break the law, you haven't got a license to drive, you've not got a helmet, you're doing the wrong thing, you'll be arrested, you have your license removed from you, you know, you'll maybe go to court, you maybe end up in prison. You know, you've got to do the right thing. If the road sign says stop, you better stop. You know, and if you have an accident, it's your fault. Problem, you'll be going to court. Yeah, so that's a huge thing. Follow the rules. Follow the rules. Strangely enough, here we drive on the same side. I have no idea why. The Dutch came to Indonesia. They drive on the right. Yet you drive on the left here, just like in England. I really don't get it. Thank God you do, because it makes it much safer for me and my driving. But, yeah, I can go go out without a helmet, drive as fast as I like. I bib anyone and everyone who gets in my way. It's different completely, you know. But I like the bikes. The bikes are great. They're so good. So cheap. Yeah, so good. What do we got? I got a list of do's and don'ts. Don't be late for a meeting. You know, if someone agrees to meet you at a time, especially for a job or something, if you're late, you just won't get the job. Simple as that. It's very rude. It's considered unprofessional. Yeah. If you're on a date and you've agreed to meet at 6, get there at 5 to 6. You know, once again, the woman will just stand you up. She'll walk off. It's rude. If your friends say turn up at about 6, that's okay, no problem. Or get round to my house after lunch. That's no problem at all. That's friends. Different situation completely. But we like to be prompt. If you have an appointment for the doctors, yeah, we go to the bank here. My wife tells them, yeah, we'll be here at 10 o'clock. And we haven't even set off from the house. We get there at 20 past 10 and they don't say a thing. In England, I'd have to come back the next day. They tell me to fuck off. They would. They just say, what? You're taking the mickey out of us. You had an appointment at 10. Someone else is coming at 10:20. Same at the doctors. You can't turn up late. You missed your point in the queue. 10 and 15, 10:30, you know, you might wait a long time to get an appointment. So yeah, you gotta, yeah. Another thing that's funny as well is when Bali, people are building stuff all the time. You drive along the road, there's sand in the road, and all stuff piled up. No, you can't do this in England. You'd have it. Do you know what? If you put something in the street, you'd have it stolen. Leeds, it's the car crime capital of Europe. I've had 2 cars stolen. It is dreadful for theft. Car theft is huge. But they do it for fun. They do it probably for drugs because they get my car. Maybe they can steal their radio. They do it. I don't know. It's just awful. Car crime is shocking. And because of that, you have to pay to protect your car. So that costs everyone more money. So you leave building materials on the side of the street, it'll be stolen. Someone will take it. But also it's against the law because the street's not yours. So you can't do that. If you see a queue at the airport, in a shop, it's a bus stop, join the queue. When the bus comes along, the first person in the queue gets on the bus first. If they're first because they got to the bus stop first. So that makes sense, doesn't it? If I turned up last, I have to join the end of the queue. If I try and push in, someone probably will say something to me. maybe the driver, maybe the other passengers. So if there's queuing, it's boring, but it's what we do. We queue for things. So if you go into a shop, there's a queue. You join the queue. You can't just shout what you want to the workers. You have to join the queue. Same with a restaurant. You have to queue. Wait for a seat, maybe. Wait for your service. Yeah, it's an order. Everything's ordered. Very ordered in England, and which is good. Good. When there's no order, you realise how difficult it is. Manners. We like manners. Please, can you watch my podcast? Thank you for joining me today. Excuse me if you couldn't understand me, and very sorry if my hair looks a mess. These 4 are very key. Sorry, thank you, please, excuse me. If you say them to people, they will love you. Yeah. Even now, tradition like going through a door, holding the door open for the person behind you. Yeah. You know, you go, they're following you and you hold it open and let them come through. Yeah, it's what you do. Slam the door in their face. Oh my God, you'll get a dirty look. You'll get comments. So good manners, still good manners. And I think it's changed. When I was little, everybody had good manners. And especially there was a lot of respect for older people. I think now, modern times, modern kids, it's changed. We've lost a little respect. I know some of you might have watched these traditional programs on England, like Pride and Prejudice. Anyone seen Pride and Prejudice now? Or what's that one where they all live in the stately home? England is not a sort of, England is changed. England can be quite aggressive in many places. You know, you can be mugged. Someone can stop you and take your money off you. You know, you can have things stolen from your house. I mean, in my city of Leeds, there are 50,000 students. 50,000. There are 2 universities. So it is the crime capital for stealing from students, because there's one student house. There are 4 or 5 students living in there. So what have you got? You got 5 laptops. You got 5 mobile phones. You got maybe a couple of televisions. It's absolutely heaven sent. They go out, students do. They go out to the farm. They go out wherever. You break into that house, it's like a gold mine. You've got all that gear that you can take. So, you know, England's not always like you see on the television. It can be a tough place as well, but they're good people, very good people. I guess we do like manners, and one of the things that comes with that is not being too direct. So I don't say how much do you earn, or how old are you, or what's your weight. All those things will be considered a little bit rude, or a little bit private, you know. I don't really want to tell you my weight because it might embarrass me. I don't want to tell you how much I earn because maybe you earn less than me and it will embarrass you. Yeah, I don't maybe want to reveal my age, especially ladies are a bit nervous about that because people make judgments about age. If I say I'm 50, 55 or 56, people think, oh, you're an old person, you know. So, yeah, it's the same with youngsters. Yeah, so sometimes we're not too direct, not too personal. Is this a new game? Christo's got a game. It's called Hands, Knees and Toes. I don't know. Sorry, Christo.
No. I'm just posing.
Go on, Christo. Go for it, mate.
No, I'm just posing.
That's all right. No problem, Christo. The last thing, I guess, is don't take our jokes too seriously. We like to tease, we like to joke, we like to we don't mean to be nasty to each other. It's a way of expressing ourselves in a polite way, in a friendly way, I guess. So learn from the jokes. There's a lot of this sort of, yeah, it takes a while to learn that humor, but hopefully you'll enjoy it one day. There's some great online YouTube stuff. There's some really good comedians, stand-up comedians, and you can some of them are so clever, so funny. Yeah, often it's about themselves. They joke, tell stories about themselves. Yeah. I mean, I used to tell this story in the classroom. Yeah. It was great, and the kids used to laugh so much, and other teachers would say, why do you tell the kids that? And they say, well, it happened, what's the harm? The kids have no respect for you. I said, what are you talking about? It's just a story from my life, and it might happen to them. Sometimes you get embarrassed, but it's okay. Okay to be a bit embarrassed sometimes. Anyway, hey, my hair's gone even more crazy than it was at the start. I hope that's been a bit eye-opening for you today. I hope I haven't been too boring. It is very, very hard to listen to someone for 2 hours. You know, it would have been much better if we could have met up in a restaurant, had food together and chatted and laughed, but just not the way it is it? Life's never perfect. I mean, anyone want to say anything? Has anyone been to England or Britain? Put your hand over. You actually visited.
Not
None of
yet.
them have been.
Have anybody of you have a trip to London or England?
See, London. She thinks England is London. See, whoa. No one's been. Has anyone been to Europe? Anyone been anywhere in Europe? Holland, Germany, Italy, Spain, France? No? Okay, I'll simplify it. Know my wife's history. Has anyone been to Singapore? No one's been to Singapore. Even my wife went to Singapore before. But yes, you've been. Have you been, Jesse? Singapore's a nice open. Singapore is very much like England. If you take away the humidity, it's the hotness in the air, take that away, like being in England. It's so ordered. Yeah, very similar in many ways. An Asian version, shall we say. Yeah. Have you been, Marlene? Have you been to Singapore?
I did.
Yeah, I'd say that's the closest you're going to maybe get in your to experience that sort of European. I mean, very fortunate. The one thing I did when I came here was I was very excited, yeah, because I've always been fascinated by history and Japan and China. Going there was amazing, especially Hong Kong. I've been to these places. I've been to the Philippines. I've been to Vietnam. It's just amazing to see these places. I mean, to see the Great Wall, it's an incredible experience, just incredible to see that. And Japan is just absolutely awesome. It's just my favorite place, possibly better than England. Probably is. Japan is just, wow. It's just the people are so good and it's so clean, and England's not clean. It's so clean and everything's so modern and it's just lovely. No? So I don't know, but you have to find what's happy, what you enjoy. Yeah. Yeah, been lots of. Where have I been in? I haven't been many. I've just been to Yogyakarta and Jakarta, and I've been to Balikpapan. I've been to Bali, and not been many places here. Yeah. Unfortunately, the other places don't attract me too much. It's not as exciting, I guess. My apologies.
That's nice.
I hate Jakarta. I hate the traffic.
Me too.
The airport's the worst airport in the world. Trust me, it's awful, awful airport. Wow. But well, what can I say? just if you ever get a chance, you know, my life changed at the age of about 30. What was it? 33. When I went 34, 35. I can't remember now. When I went overseas to work, if you ever get an opportunity, take it, to study or to do an exchange student thing, because it makes you think differently and it opens your eyes, and you know, it's just exciting. You know, it changes who you are. Some people are scared of change, but don't be scared of change. Embrace it. But wow.
Wow, that's a lot of experiences, Mr. V.
Well,
so,
yeah, the thing is, Marlene, the frustrating thing is, why have I got that experience? It's about money. Really, sadly, unfortunately, it's come from that. It's come, my country, you know, we're a bit wealthier, and so it's given me those opportunities. So it frustrates me, because I hope you have the opportunity, that's all I say, but it comes from money, unfortunately. Yeah.
okay. Any question? Any comments? Come on.
Just put the money in an envelope. That's British humour. Good, you're laughing. That's British humour. See, I don't really need the money, or I don't expect you to give me money, but I still make a comment about it to make you feel guilty. That's how we work. We get in your head, yeah?
Okay, anyone? Comments? question, feel free to ask.
Ask question, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, actually this question from my friends in this meeting, but maybe she was embarrassed to ask. She was, she just wondering, do British people feel uncomfortable when they are looking for a mate via dating apps? And do British people have high expectations for their partners? As we know, that many of people, when they find out their partners, if she or he didn't find the same culture like them, they just leave it sometimes. I think maybe she has a plan to find a partner from dating app.
Listen, it's very difficult. My wife was in a group. She was in a group with Indonesians marrying to Bule. And the experiences they shared there are hugely different. As you can expect, as you can imagine, everyone's different. You could meet a guy who is quite rude and he could treat you pretty badly. I'm going to say something here. I don't mean to shock you. Sex is huge. In England, it's very open. Meeting someone in England, there's a big expectations. Big expectations in having sex before you're married. Big expectations in when you will have sex with a partner. If a Bule meets an Indonesian or another partner, they often expect to be having sex quite soon. You have to set, just like anywhere, you have to set your own standards for that. You know, you have to. Well, that's not how we do it in my culture. And if you're prepared to get to know me and meet me, that will be somewhere along the line, maybe when we're married. But if he's not prepared to accept that, then you move on. So that is a huge thing with the Bule, having that cross-cultural thing. I think my wife sometimes gets frustrated with me when maybe I don't quite, I haven't learned Bahasa. I'm embarrassed by it. I've lived here 12 years. My problem was I worked in school for 10 years and in school we used English. So I got home, I was tired. In the last 2 years, I've not worked. I've got no excuse. I should learn Bahasa. So she gets frustrated sometimes when maybe she can't communicate with me too well. Yeah. But most foreign, my personal experience is an Indonesian partner is much easier than a partner from back home. Now, why probably is that? Obviously, it could be that my wife's easy to be with. I don't think so, because my wife is quite aggressive and very strong. Yeah. I think it's to do with the culture. I think it's to do with your nature. I find here, if I have an argument on the street, I don't do it now, but before, when I first arrived, if there's bad driving, I might shout. Indonesians always back down. British people are aggressive. Now, that's interesting because Indonesian partner, then they're a little bit more passive, more calmer. That's a very good person to have a relationship with, isn't it? Yeah. I think Indonesian partner, I definitely find before when I've had partners in England, it's been very much one-to-one, very even, very balanced. You're someone similar to you. With my wife, it's almost like it's more traditional. My wife cooks. I sometimes cook for myself, but I won't cook for us. She cooks for us. She cleans. I do cleaning jobs. I do the washing up. I do the laundry. I do the ironing. Because that's what I've done. That's what you do. When you leave home and you live on your own, you have to do these things. It's not an issue. So that's a bonus compared to an Indonesian man, which is interesting because my wife talks to all her friends and they say, my husband doesn't do any jobs at home. But as someone who's lived, now I know another Bule who does no jobs at home because he never lived on his own. So if you meet someone who lived on their own, their experience is doing jobs at home because that's what they did. So experience is different each time. I find my life is much more, we have less argument, we have less conflict. I find that she will do things for me. She will give, if I'm, let's say my arm's hurting, she will massage me. My girlfriend back in England will massage me. It's very different. It's more more generous personality here, and I find it much more pleasant experience as being a man here. I try not to abuse those benefits, you know. What can I say? Yeah. So it is dating. I mean, I know there are many guys trying to meet people from out in this region, many guys, and some have come out and some have fallen in love, but it's very hard for a Bule to stay here. Yeah, I've got a very good friend who was a teacher in Surabaya, and twice she's been let down by someone who wanted to come to Indonesia and be with her, just couldn't get a job here. And be warned, it's very difficult to go to Europe as well. This is a tricky thing. We've got friends that have lived in Europe very happily. When we go to Europe, my wife likes eating European food. She likes the weather. It's cooler. She likes it. She said her skin's more beautiful in Europe. Here it's not as nice. She doesn't quite. She said, my wife could live in Europe happily, but not everyone is like that. The Indonesians, I find, they very close to their family. They miss their family so much, and that is a huge factor. Then you get a food problem. It's not, you know, to change your lifetime of that, and just your general culture. It's so big here, so traditional. I'm not sure whether you're all ready for it. If you're a modern girl, a modern boy, you live in a big city, maybe you can make that change, especially if you've traveled and you're ready for that. It can be exciting. Listen, I'm more happy being here than I am in England. Sometimes you find somewhere that suits your personality, which is great. It suits who you want to be. I've got another friend, and she went to Northern Europe, cold. She met a lovely guy, and they've been married 11 years, and she's very happy. They got 2 children, and it's a cold country, and she lives there, you know, like Finland, Estonia, up in the north of Europe, and very happy, very happy. She's always been. Another friend's gone to America, and she's very happy there. Another friend in England. So all depends on individuals. But I think with online dating, there's too many people looking to take advantage. And what is it they're looking for? Looking for sex. That's the key. You've got to suss people out. If you use online dating, it's very easy to suss people out. People who commit their time to you, who tell you about. Do you know? Someone put me on their Facebook. It put me on their Facebook, for example, I thought they were sharing their life. I could see all their friends. I could see their life. They weren't hiding anything from me. Someone who won't send me a picture, someone who doesn't want to write too much, someone who wants to cut corners, just wants to meet. Yeah, this is someone looking for sex. This is not someone looking to learn about me. So you learn to, just like meeting someone, that's why we fall in love with people at work. We see them every day. We see them having bad days. We see them having good days. We see them laughing. Feel close to them because we share the same experience, and we yeah, all the time. Yeah? Should set up a dating site.
All right.
I hope that answered that question. I mean, apps have become so popular. You know, the phone things are just huge now. When I started doing it, it's just advanced. It's just a new level, isn't it? You know, phones. It's just no, it's crazy. Crazy, really.
Does that answer the question, Dusty?
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Hey, that's okay.
Anybody? Any more?
Ask anything,
questions?
anything you want about anything. If you've always had a question you want to ask, no problem at all, really. Yeah. It's funny actually, because sorry.
Feel free to ask or give comments or whatever you like.
I'm question.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on, Christy.
I have heard you telling about shy when made a conversation. How to overcome when we speak and feel afraid people's not respond or speak, and sometimes we worry to making mistake. And actually, I'm shy too when I was asking it for you, sir.
You know, I can't speak Bahasa. So as soon as I meet someone who's Indonesian who can speak English, I'm immediately embarrassed because they can speak Bahasa and they can speak English. So straight away, you've got to turn that round. The fact that you're trying to speak English or that you can speak English, even if it's not perfect, is better than what they can do. So you've got to have that in your head. You're being lazy, I'm trying. So if I make mistakes, that's just normal. It's just someone who's a good person won't make you feel too bad. They would help you. It's like my wife. Sometimes she says things wrong. So I have to be gentle. Can't tell her every time because it's too much, but maybe an important word that she uses a lot. Maybe help her a little bit. It could be a word, like the word iron. You iron your clothes. It's spelled I-R and iron. So she used to say, get the iron, or say iron. You don't say the r. Unless someone tells you that, you may never know. So little change, someone who's a nice person will help you with that. You say hello. Hello is very simple. All over the world we say hello. Hello. You can always say to someone, would you speak a little bit more slowly? I'm still learning English. You explain someone, listen, if I meet you, I quickly realize that you need me to speak a little bit slower. So people who have intelligence realize this. So yeah, at the end of the day, so what? You've been if you're a little bit embarrassed, it's okay. There's no harm at all. Huh? You just spit red for 5 minutes and finish. Obviously, I mean, people say it in different ways. There's many different ways of saying words. I mean, English is very confusing, but Indonesian is so much more simple. Like everything we do, there are so many different ways of saying it. You know, like, for example, you can walk, you can stroll, you can run, there's about 8 different ways of describing how you walk. And that's just crazy. I might say hi, or hello, or, you know, or just wave, not even say. There's so many different ways that we communicate.
Is that clear enough, Christy? Is that answering your question?
Yes, well, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
When you teach at university, do you teach in English?
It should be.
Hey, hey, good answer, teacher. You should have said, what do you think?
Okay, any more question? Everyone? Anybody?
So has anyone got plans? Has anyone got plans to, and what are the plans for the future?
Anyone? Mr. B is asking, do you have any plan?
Plans for the future? You planning to like live overseas, or are you planning to like move to Jakarta? Does everyone live in Jakarta? You in Jakarta now, Marlene?
In Bandung, Mr. B.
Oh, you're in Bandung. Okay, yeah.
It's not quite busy like Jakarta, but on the weekend it is.
Yeah. Where do you see your future? I mean, do you want to come to Bali? Would you like to go maybe to Singapore? Where do these students see their future? Do they just want to have a happy home and happy family?
So we can ask them. Well, how about you, Beatrix?
Actually, I really want to go to Singapore because Batam is so near to Singapore. But because this pandemic, we can go there because it's still lockdown.
Yes, that's right. Do you know it's not too expensive because there are some very cheap accommodations in Singapore. The transport is quite cheap as well when you're there, so you don't, and the food is cheap, a lot of street food, so it's not as expensive as you think just to look around there. It's a good experience, it really is. Yeah, little bit in Singapore, people a little bit arrogant though, I find, a little bit they're very overconfident. They think they're very better than people. I think that's my experience. But very rude on the metro. No one speaks to you. They're very cold people. I don't know. My experience.
Okay, any more question? Anybody?
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Ma'am, I have already learned that Britons is frequently say sorry. Is it right, Mr. D?
Say sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you say sorry if you do something wrong. It's just as simple as that. Yeah. Yeah, we do. We say sorry a lot, but only if you've made a mistake. Oh, I'm sorry. Because there's obviously saying sorry, meaning you're sorry. Two different things. Like being genuine about being sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Any more question?
How old are these? How old are you all, folks?
It's
Are
about
you like
20s,
early 20s, yeah?
early 20s, yes.
Oh, you're all still young girls, yeah? Got your future ahead of you. Yeah.
Okay, no more question? If there is no more question, once again, on behalf of our class, Mr. D, with all the students, we would like to appreciate your time. Actually, it's more than 2 hours.
Yeah, no problem.
So, and then thank you for all the things that you shared to us. It was wonderful. It is nice to have you with us. And I hope the students can learn something and new things, especially about England. Well, thank you again. Would you like to say